Now your pre's will be coming up and you'll be wanting to do some practice on writing tasks, and we will be doing them in class, but I'm going to send you a few videos with a few solutions over the next 10 days or so, and you'll get an idea of how to approach some writing tasks. So I'm going to look at this question up here, and I've made out a plan. So I suggest you look at my plan and look at the little bit of vocabulary that I'm using on the right hand side in the right hand column here. Pause the video and try and do the answer yourself, and then come back and look at the solution that I've done out fully. So the question is, le gouvernement envisage une réduction des frais universitaires. Le gouvernement envisage une réduction des frais universitaires. Frais are expenses or fees. So university fees would be les frais universitaires or les frais universitaires. We could put the liaison there. Qu'en pensez-vous? What do you think? Now, this is a measure that was announced a few weeks ago by the government. So the question, le gouvernement envisage une réduction des frais universitaires. What do you think? So they're planning a reduction in fees. And what do you think? And so I'm going to say three things: an intro, development, conclusion. And I'm going to make 2 points effectively in my development. And my intro, I'm going to say I recently learned this. It's great. And I'm going to need on the right hand side, apprendre is the verb. It can be to teach or to learn something, to learn a bit of news. Okay, apprendre. I'm going to say it's excellent. So in the passé composé, apprendre, I'm going to need that. And then personally, I'm going to say I won't have difficulties because my parents earn a good living, and I'm an only child. I'm not an only child, but I'm going to say this. Okay, so I won't have difficulties. Des difficultés. And my parents earn a good living. Now that's perhaps a new expression. To earn a good living is gagne bien leur vie. Gagne bien, to win well their life. Gagne bien leur vie. That's my parents. In the plural we would say leur vie. And if it was one person, my dad earns a good living or my uncle earns a good living, we'd say gagne bien sa vie in the singular. But in this case we're going to say gagne bien leur vie on the right hand side. I'm going to say I'm an only child, enfant unique, and I'm going to say my friends are worried, though some of my friends are worried, and the verb to worry is s'inquiéter. I suppose you knew that verb already, s'inquiéter. And some will have to find a part-time job, un petit boulot, or get a loan. Now a loan is un prêt. And I'm going to say a second point. So this is point number 1 of my development, and my point number 2, I'm going to make one more point. I'm going to say that, my French friend told me that she only has to pay 170 euros, or she will only have to pay 170 euros compared to Irish fees. This is tiny. So now we could use the verb payer, but a better verb to use in this case is débourser, which is to pay. Débourser. And compared to comparer à, compared to Irish fees, well, it's tiny or derisory, and that would be dérisoire. And then in the conclusion, I'm going to say I appreciate the gesture of the government, but it's not enough. So the gesture is le geste and suffisant. So I suggest you just pause the video and have a crack at that yourself using my plan, and then come back and look at my solution. Now I'm going to write my solution. I'm going to write down at the bottom. So I've recycled from the question now some vocabulary here. If you go back up to the question and keep it at the top here, I've said, j'ai appris, passé composé, j'ai appris récemment que le gouvernement envisage de réduire les frais universitaires. And I've recycled some vocabulary from this. So that's my intro now. J'ai appris récemment que le gouvernement envisage de réduire les frais universitaires. I'm going to say, I find this measure excellent. A mesure is a measure. I find this measure excellent. And let's not forget that we've got an E on the adjective because we're talking about a feminine mesure. Je trouve cette mesure excellente. That's my intro done. My development first point, I'm going to say personally I won't have difficulties because my parents earn a good living. Personnellement, je n'aurai pas de difficultés financières. Je n'aurai pas. Now, difficulté, I could just say like that, but I'm going to put in an adjective. Financier is financial difficulties. Financière, the feminine form, because difficulté is a feminine word here like this. And so we need the feminine form. Je n'aurai pas de difficultés financières. And here we've got the future tense of the verb avoir. Je n'ai pas de difficultés. Je n'aurai pas de difficultés. Je suis fille unique. I'm going to pretend I'm writing as a girl. Je suis fille unique. Je suis fille unique, an only girl. Et mes parents gagnent bien leur vie. Gagnent bien leur vie. Earn a good living. Now that's an expression to learn. Gagner bien leur vie. To earn a good living. To make a good living. To have a good financial security. Gagnent bien leur vie. And I'm going to create a new paragraph here, and I'm going to say some of my friends are worried, however. I'm going to add a sentence before getting on about my friends. So seulement, only, it's a bit like it's a slang, however, seulement, ce n'est pas le cas de la majorité des jeunes étudiants. Ce n'est pas le cas de, the case of, ce n'est pas le cas de, la majorité des jeunes étudiants. La majorité des jeunes étudiants. Now, we could write seulement or cependant, it doesn't matter. Cependant, however, ce n'est pas le cas de la majorité des jeunes étudiants. And now I'm going to say some of my friends are worried, or a lot of my friends are worried. Beaucoup de mes amis s'inquiètent pour leurs études. I could simply say pour leurs études, are worried for their studies, are worried about their studies, or pour la suite de leurs études, the next part, the next development, the next part of their studies, the next stage. So, beaucoup de mes amis s'inquiètent pour la suite de leurs études. And I'm going to say some of them are going to have to get a loan. Certaines, we're talking about girls in this case, certaines with an E, certaines. But certains would be, you know, my male and female friends. Certains or certaines vont devoir trouver un petit boulot. Vont, are going, to have to, devoir, to find, trouver. Vont devoir trouver un petit boulot. Or get a loan. And the verb to get one, prendre, to take one out, ou prendre un prêt étudiant, prêt étudiant, a student loan. And now so that's it. Now we've covered that first point of the development. And the second point of my development is my French friend. So I'm going to make a new paragraph. I'm going to say, she told me this. So I'm going to say, furthermore, de plus. De plus, furthermore, mon amie française m'a dit que, passé composé, m'a dit que, said to me that she will have to. Now we've got the verb devoir in the present tense, elle doit, and in the future tense, elle devra. Elle doit, she must, elle devra, she will have to. So we've got now, mon amie française m'a dit qu'elle devra débourser 170 euros. 170 euros pour s'inscrire en fac. S'inscrire is to get into or to sign up to the university or to register in this case. Now that's not a word that I put in the vocabulary up here, but s'inscrire is to sign up for or to register in this case. S'inscrire. En fac de droit, to get into law. So, de plus, mon amie française m'a dit qu'elle devra débourser 170 euros pour s'inscrire en fac de droit. And I'm going to say compared to Ireland, this is tiny. So I'm going to say débourser la somme de, the sum of 170 euros. Comparer, compared, no, it's an adjective here. And why have we got the extra E? Because we're talking about la somme, compared to, you know, comparing this sum to. Comparé aux frais universitaires irlandais, cette somme, this sum is derisory. Cette somme est dérisoire. And now I'm going to say, I would like the Irish fees to be as low. And j'aimerais que, I would like. Now, after that expression, j'aimerais que, the next verb, I would like it, because it's hypothetical. The next verb has to be in the subjunctive. So, j'aimerais que les frais universitaires soient aussi bas, as low. Bas is low, and élevé is high. So, j'aimerais que les frais universitaires soient aussi bas en Irlande. And next, I'm going to say, that's it. And now I've dealt now with my development. And in my conclusion, I'm going to say I appreciate, even though I appreciate the gesture of the government. Pour conclure, bien que j'apprécie le geste du gouvernement, bien que j'apprécie le geste du gouvernement, il est loin, it is far from being, il est loin d'être suffisant. It's far from being sufficient. So that's the full answer. Now, as a revision now, perhaps you've done your own, and now you compare mine to yours, and now as a final push to learn and register this vocabulary, I suggest you put this away now, my solution and your own solution, and try and do it one more time, writing out as best you can my answer, or an answer close to mine here. I'm going to read through one more time from the top. J'ai appris récemment que le gouvernement envisage de réduire les frais universitaires. Je trouve cette mesure excellente. Personnellement, je n'aurai pas de difficultés financières. Je suis fille unique et mes parents gagnent bien leur vie. Cependant, ce n'est pas le cas de la majorité des jeunes étudiants. Beaucoup de mes amis s'inquiètent pour la suite de leurs études. Certaines vont devoir trouver un petit boulot ou prendre un prêt étudiant. De plus, mon amie française m'a dit que elle devra débourser la somme de 170 € pour s'inscrire en fac de droit. Comparé aux frais universitaires irlandais, cette somme est dérisoire. J'aimerais que les frais universitaires soient aussi bas en Irlande. Pour conclure, bien que j'apprécie le geste du gouvernement, il est loin d'être suffisant. And that's that answer about university fees.